Well, I mean, there's no question. Silver should be in excess of $50 as we speak. Because if you look at the fundamentals of silver, they are a lot different than the fundamentals in gold when we're talking about supply and demand. I've always had this sneaking suspicion, because of obviously the wide use of silver in electronics business, that the likes of Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan suppress the price of silver to appease their clients who are in the manufacturing business, who would see obviously $50 silver as prohibitive in the manufacturing of cell phones, for instance.
You know,
so there's a lot of skullduggery. I'd say there's a lot more skullduggery going on in the silver market than there's in the gold market.
Yeah, go ahead.
It hit $50, didn't it, in the 80s?
Yep.
Yeah.
It sure
and,
did.
you know, the Silver Users Association have rigged the markets for years. And now you've got the federal government in there, and you've got the CFTC allowing concentration. 3 banks virtually control the entire short position. And the manipulation of silver has been unbelievable. That's why it's so important to get rid of the Fed, because all of this stuff will come out, and we'll see exactly what they've done, probably exactly what we've been telling you that they've done, but so few people were willing to listen over all these years. But this is pay time. The cash register is going to ring big time for both gold and silver. And anybody who isn't in there better get in there, because the train's leaving the station. And if you are in there and you got investable funds, you better put them in there now, because this is a breakout. These prices are not going back down.
And thank you for saying that, Bob, because what I've been itching to remind people is, and Robbie, you saw this, we talked about this, and Bob, you were there at the time. We saw gold go to $750. But then it gone back down to $5.25, $5.50. We heard the belly aching of the miners out there saying, well, unless it reaches this amount, it doesn't pay us to mine it. And the people were waiting once it hits 700. Well, I'll wait till it goes back down to 500, and then I'll buy again. Look, here's
it ain't going to happen.
No kidding. Here's the deal, folks. You know, if silver right now, say, just arbitrarily $17, it doubles. It goes to, what, 34. Well, it'll double again. That'll be 68. We're talking about between 70, 50, 75, $100. This is, they're doubling and quadrupling. And if you find folks out there, and gold right now, Robbie told you about the deal here. Gold right now, you can buy the French roosters, 20 of them for $47.60. That's going to look like a bargain basement price here soon. And you're going to wait till it goes to $1,500 or $1,700 an ounce. And what this is, you're converting these worthless Federal Reserve notes, like everybody on this planet is doing right now, to get into something that is going to be an insurance policy that you're not going to lose your net worth. You're actually going to start gaining on inflation. And when this starts hitting, Bob, I don't know how we can relay this. The people seem to only think, well, if it happens, then I'll examine it. We've been telling people, and we've not been far off this mark all the time we've been talking to them, that this is the insurance policy to get into, period. But people...
And you know, John, you have a record short position by commercials, which are banks, in both gold and silver, which means sooner or later they got to cover. And the record in gold is 284,000 contracts. The previous high was 275. And on top of that, you've got production in both gold and silver, which are falling. And, you know, how far can these commercials go? I mean, they've got to be losing billions of dollars. And I think they're going to have to cover in here. And I think that's what's going to make gold and silver shoot up. And another thing, too, as I mentioned earlier, 95% of the analysts, economists, letter writers, chartists, think gold's going to go down. And they've been wrong every single time.
Sure, it's going to go
I mean,
down.
they ought to fold their tents and go into some other business because they've been so dreadful in their calls.
Could I ask one more question?
Sure, go ahead, Dave.
Okay. I've heard several people talking about a currency that's 50% backed by gold. Mm-hmm. Do you guys know exactly what currency? Because I only heard part of that.
Well, what he said was there will be a basket of currencies, and I've contended that for a long time, probably the top 20 currencies in the world. I don't think you're going to see a 50% gold backing. I don't think it's doable. What is doable is 25%. And that means that all those countries that sold their gold that want to be in the top 20, those fiat currencies, are going to have to gallop out and they're going to have to buy gold, or they're going to get a lower rating in the weighting, WEIGHTING, of this new commercial currency that's going to be created.
So it's a currency that basically doesn't even exist yet.
That's right.
Okay.
But you know, the OPEC has had a model for years of 20 currencies, but nobody wanted to talk about it because if you did, the United States blew your head off. Yeah. And I don't mean that literally, I mean that physically.
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, ask Renee. She put it, very succinctly earlier in the program.
Dave, I thank you for your call, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, and what direct correlation, how exactly would that work? If they come up with a currency and say we're going to back it by 25%, what's that going to do to the price of gold? If they're trying to back currencies with gold?
It'll send it into the stratosphere. Yeah. But, less than 5% of the people in the world own gold on average. Less than 3% in the United States. They're going to get screwed royally. Because they're not participating.
That is absolutely where do those figures come from? 3%.
That's a guesstimate.
Okay.
I think it's less than that.
Pardon me, Rob?
I think it's less than that, Bob. I don't think.
Well, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. The point is, Americans, maybe at the height of the gold-silver run, which are only the second of 3 stages, maybe 4, when this thing runs, more people will get on. My guess is a total of about 15%. All the rest of the people, and it's in the next issue coming out tomorrow, will lose 50 to 95% of their assets. Guaranteed.
This is, sometimes, Bob, and you and I have known each other for quite some time. We've known Robbie. Robbie's known us for quite some time. This boggles my mind. It's even hard for me to get my mind wrapped around this, because what we're going to be seeing here in the future is the dollar. It's going to fall off the edge of the planet. And what are we going to convert our dollars to? Are we going to be buying yen or won or rubles or shekels or whatever it is? And people, they don't have a clear, definable picture as to what's going to happen in this country in the future. When all this money that was suggested it's going to come back to the United States, and that's going to be even worth less than it is right now. We're monetizing our debt. Folks, think about this. China, we're going to make them most favored nation status. Well, these people over there shoot underperforming factory workers behind their plants. That's not a joke, and that's not made up. They literally do this stuff. So, we get into bed with these people. Our manufacturing companies move over there, get in cozy with the communist Chinese. These are people that are absolutely, if it weren't for the buck that they're making, they'd be plotting ways to blow us up yesterday. So here we are. They've borrowed, and we've lent them, they have bought our debt. We sold it to them, and we're paying interest on this stuff to the tune of about $800 million a week. And where do you think that money's coming from? Remember, the government doesn't produce anything. It can only do by way of taxation to bring money into the coffers. They're borrowing at astronomical rates. You've seen what happened with Geithner and Paulson and the Fed, George Bush, and now Barry Sartoro, Obama. And we've got a situation here that this dollar is going to continue to weaken and collapse. What are you going to do about it, folks? What is your sane alternative? You have but one choice. Heed the clarion call, because if you want to heat and eat next year, you damn well better move today. And I can't put it any other way, Bob. I don't think people are getting it.
Well, if they don't, they're going to starve to death. That's simple.
Well, don't come to my door, because the rice and the wheat I got put back, I've got for my family. We've been telling you, but you ain't been listening. We're going to take the break, come back with your phone calls. And, folks, I hate to beat you up like this, but sometimes somebody's got to come up and smack you square in the face to get your attention.